it had sparked something in my brain about FBI Anon, Mega Anon, and all these other different Anons that were popping up, because something to me since 2016 didn't seem organic. And what I was assembling to at the time was the fact that I should try to do one. So I actually had two different operations that we had run. There was one called QAnon, and there was another one called PD Anon.
All right, I am with Manuel Chavez III, also known as Manny, which makes my life a whole lot easier. But my life needs to be easy because we're going to be discussing, and I'm hoping that I learn, how the hell QAnon was started, and essentially a digestible, understandable history of the, I think I've heard, 17th letter psyop. Would that be a fair statement, Manny?
Yeah, some people call it the 17th letter psyop. I mean, QAnon, in fact, was a psyop. It was supposed to be the psyop to end all psyops. It was supposed to teach people like what they were. I'm a YouTuber who's been around since 2008, and I've spent a lot of time going through conspiracies and conspiracy theories. Pretty much every single one that you could imagine under the sun. And what QAnon is in fact, it's like an ultra spiracy in a lot of ways, where it takes pieces of all kinds of different other conspiracies and weaves them together. And the best example of something pre QAnon that functioned like QAnon would be something like the Illuminati, or the Illuminati, the idea that the Illuminati is real and exists. They have a white room, all this stuff. That's something that was actually came up with by a writer. He wrote a few books. He called it the Illuminatus trilogy, where he basically came up with the idea of the Illuminati and how they interoperated. And the way that it worked was that the more people started connecting things to the Illuminati that sounded like they could be the Illuminati, these people that were behind the writings would embed it into their story to gain more traction with people. Because the way that the mind works is that when you see something, and if it goes with, your neural pathways that have already been pre-set up for a lot of folks, that will just automatically sound good to them. So when somebody,
Confirmation bias, right?
yes, confirmation bias. That's exactly what it could be. And if you think about this, this is a thing that has been happening throughout the many years, all over time. And it's very crazy that nowadays, when you hear about somebody who's a conspiracy theorist or something, it actually sounds like they're saying they're a QAnon person, right? Because now a conspiracy, the all-encompassing conspiracy theory for everything is QAnon. You're into flat Earth, you're a QAnon. You're into the, what is it, Pizzagate, you're probably into QAnon. You're into the royal family is a bunch of lizards. I mean, QAnon, even though that was David Icke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
now, is this like a real thing, or is this an external labeling principle? And what I mean by that is, I do believe conspiracies exist, but I also believe not everything is a conspiracy. Case in point, MK Ultra is an absolutely proven, documented conspiracy. It's been before the Church Committee, Congress, no question. It is a real thing. They tried to cover it up. Operation Paperclip, again, I think everybody will agree that that is factual history, a legitimate conspiracy. There are other ones though, and part of the reason I'm having you on is I had a gentleman on recently, FBI agent. His name was Ken Lanning. Ken Lanning helped found the sex crimes unit at the FBI back when it was a behavioral sciences unit, like you see in Silence of the Lambs, then became behavioral analysis unit, like you see in Criminal Minds. He was there the entire time, spanning 20 years of both names, and he worked sex crimes specifically with smaller people, because this is YouTube.
mm-hmm.
He also is very critical of the satanic panic. and specifically satanic ritual abuse. And I drew, if you will, a little bit of feedback that wasn't positive for the interview. And I stand by my interview. First off, just because I have you on doesn't mean that I agree with everything you say. But second, he wasn't saying that no abuse happened. The guy worked sex crimes and helped put thousands of people away. And people are pushing back. And this is where the confirmation bias and things come in. I am getting to a point. I got feedback such as, are we saying Epstein didn't happen? No, we're not saying Epstein didn't happen. We're saying that there wasn't proof of the satanic panic and these massive, huge rings of hundreds and hundreds of people and traveling crematoriums and the tunnels and all of that. So
Yeah, you're
Epstein
talking
it didn't
about
happen.
Franklin, right? That's like all the way back to the Franklin cover up or the
Um,
Franklin conspiracy, correct?
I guess with the McMartin preschool was definitely in there. But anyway, so it is a hard thing because obviously things did happen at the Catholic Church. This is proven. There are people who are locked up. There's silver bracelets everywhere. So I really want to be clear, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about this and find out what is real, what is a hoax, and how did it start. So to get a linear timeline, from what I understand, this started with you solving some sort of puzzles.
Correct. I was working on the Cicada 3301 puzzles, or what alleged to be a Cicada 3301 puzzle. Specifically, it didn't have something called the PGP key, which was associated to all the puzzles, but through force of will and just me being awesome, I've actually met some of the individuals behind the puzzle and was able to acquire proof that at least some of the people that were creating the puzzle that I was solving were actually part of the original group from back in
What
2012,
is the
2013.
puzzle?
And the puzzle is just, it's very strange to explain. It's like this internet puzzle where they said they were looking for really smart people to solve some really interesting stuff and to help them with something in the future. So they put out a series of puzzles on the internet that got progressively harder, that utilized cryptology, cryptography, and a myriad of other like tech types of computer techniques to basically hide information from people, like embedding an image or having an image with the file embedded inside of it, like a zip file that opens up and then it has more stuff in it, more images with more stuff saved inside of it. And overall, it to me seemed like it was part of like a government conspiracy. There was a operation called IARPA, and IARPA is like DARPA, but for the intelligence community. It's a government agency. This government
Well,
agency,
DARPA is intelligence, is defense.
yes,
Yeah.
they're both intelligence, except for I guess it's it's the way it was explained to me by them, because I actually did some work with them on a project called Create, which was a couple of years ago. And specifically, what they were doing is they work with all the academic types. So they're basically, if you've ever heard of John Hopkins University, that's where most of the feds basically go to school. And what was happening is that the federal government wanted to be able to get in high risk individuals, somebody like me. See, my history on the internet goes as far as to be me being one of the biggest internet pirates ever. Like, I'm almost infamous for it in some circles, where I've like legitimately taken $2 billion or more out of Hollywood's pockets just for shits and giggles through online piracy. A lot of my friends got arrested and went to jail for it. Unfortunately, the government just apparently couldn't catch me up on it, so I got to go free. But it was a thing that we started to
So
see
you
back.
did this, or you're accused of it?
I was accused of it and I did it, but we're outside the statute of limitations and stuff for all that stuff now, so it's not like they can do anything about it. Basically, it's like I won, but I didn't really win, because the Department of Homeland Securities took all of my computer equipment, and a whole lot of other things happened to me back then. And like I've been under the watchful eye for a very, very long time, I guess I should say. So I've always tried to be more positive. You know, I've gone to music festivals and stuff. So government individuals approached me and they were like, "Hey, do you want to be a member of the CIA?" And I was like, "Unfortunately, I can't. I refuse." Right. But they told me that, well, you know, we could probably still use you. You would just have to open up your own company and then you basically become a contractor and then you just do contract work. And that's how things basically kind of like started along for me. Um,
Now, question on that. Okay, because there's a few things. I've had a clearance before, so I'm concerned about some of this. First off, Cicada 3301 was at a honeypot,
yes. Yeah.
and go ahead.
Yes, it was a honeypot, but not in the way that most people realize. I think it was more or less a bunch of con artists that tricked a lot of people into thinking something was what it wasn't. Okay. So, like the people that I've interacted with in the 3301 organization, some of them are very good, positive people that were just brought in because they believe the idea. But it seems that some of the individuals who were actually behind it had a more nefarious purpose behind it. And it goes back into this IARPA thing because they did a research project on alternate reality games. And when they ran their own alternate reality game called the You Are Here project, which predated the Cicada puzzles, um, it seems like this cicada organization saw how it operated and then said, "Hey, we can make our own thing out of this," and then change it a little bit. And basically, this is where cicada comes from. So a lot of folks thought it was the intelligence community. It wasn't actually. It was like a bunch of people like you and me, artists, so on and so forth, con artists, really, that were basically just trying to sell a lie for something. And that's the weird thing about the Cicada 3301 situation, is that people that don't know anything about it have all of these insane crazy ideas about it being a secret organization with people all over the world that are trying to like make everything better. And essentially that's not exactly what they are, right? It's a bunch of people that have really high aptitude on the computer and are very, very skillful, but ultimately it was a program designed to basically corral people. They're looking for smart people that they can abuse, right? So from when I started solving the puzzles till after everything happened, like I went through an entire situation where I was having like life ruination tactics, people stalking me, all kinds of weird stuff that was associated to this game because they really manipulate people. They utilize manipulation tactics, psychological operation tactics in a different way. And they utilize this confirmation bias in a way that I guess really hasn't been seen since, I guess we would have to say, something like the Illuminati came up. So a lot of people still have these ideas of who it could be or who it would be, but essentially like this group is just a group of individuals making these really crazy computer puzzles, and they wanted to write software to try to like help the world in some way, but ultimately every iteration of them trying to do it ended in failure because of the network effect and how individuals, I guess would you would say, are greedy, right? Like everybody who was trying to solve this puzzle wanted to be the smartest of the smart, and if you solved it you were part of this elite group of the smart people, right? But that's not really what it was.
But it's not
And
a hacking group then, not like
no,
anonymous or something, or
no, it's not a hacking group because nobody in the group really seemed to have any understanding. And hacking and cryptography are almost two different things, right?
Mhm.
Hacking is like trying to utilize different types of computer code and issues and basically creating an error in a system that would allow you to gain a privileged access. In cryptography, it's different. You're taking information and either encoding it or changing it in a way so that only certain people can unlock it. And the two are sound kind of like they could be mutually exclusive, but they really aren't. Like me, I'm not much of a hacker. Like I've done some hacking back in the day, but in my piracy days, at the most part, like I didn't have to hack anything. I just had to ask for it, if that makes any sense.
No,
To
no, no.
me,
Most hacking is social engineering.
Correct. So like I'm an excellent social engineer in my own respect, and it helps me in my job and my daily life. Like I'm a guy that if I'm dressed like this and I take my iPad, I can literally get in anywhere, and most of the time nobody's going to make any fuss about it, right? Like I could put on a yellow vest and I can get in anywhere and look like I know what I'm supposed to be there, so on and so forth. So I've looked at this puzzle, and really that's what social or the Cicada 3301 puzzle was. It was them social engineering people into this weird mystical psyop that's like supposed to tell them about their inner selves, which is very mirrored in something that was really big on the internet for before that, which was the new age style or the new age Saint Germain stuff like that, the ascended masters, the 1111. I'm just like rattling off all the
Right, but
conspiracies.
to what end? I guess
So,
is the big question.
well,
Great, there's a psyop, but what is the purpose?
see, the purpose of it almost escaped me for a long time, but it almost seems like it's a death cult, to be perfectly honest. Like to them, they're so discordant and into discordianism and chaos. It's almost like they are trying to induct people into their cult. And then if you get out of their cult, they basically want you to kill because they don't want you giving out any of the information. Which if you've ever talked to anybody who's been big in cults, I have spoken to this guy named Steven Hassan before, who
Mhm.
is an
The
expert
bite,
on.
the
Yep.
bite model.
Yep. And he basically like with I never had heard of this guy, none of this stuff, and it was sometime in like 2017, towards the end of 2017, right before we started the QAnon thing, that I started to realize that the situation that I was in was a lot worse than what I thought, because Cicada was supposed to be about puzzles, but as soon as I solved the puzzles and got out of that, they're asking me to do some entirely different things that aren't even puzzle related, cryptography related. They're like, oh, hey, can you hack into somebody's computer? Oh, hey, can you help us do this one thing that sounds like it's super illegal? Or, hey, do you want to work with our disinformation group? We call ourselves Shadowbox, and we're basically like the internet's personal army, and we'll mess with people and ruin their life on the internet. Do you want to be a part of that? And it was like twofold for me, because it was them saying that if you ever screw up this Cicada 3301 stuff, here's who we really are, and here's how what we're really doing this for. We're trying to find really, really smart people that are willing to do whatever and whatever anything to basically be almost like a private intelligence agency in a sort, where you're at a point where you're smart enough to forego morality in the source of making money. And that's what ultimately it seemed like it was for. So companies like Black Cube are very similar to this, and it was basically the same kind of model. The people that were working together were collecting people so that they could create virality on the internet and make it seem like it was organic, but essentially not really organic, just a bunch of different people working together without understanding that coherent plot, which is really how everything in QAnon seemed to come forward, is because I was learning a lot, right? Like I had done the puzzles before, I had solved other puzzles and, played the fool to try to figure out, if it would help me get farther into the organizations. Like there was the Tangri 137 puzzle before Cicada, then I did the Cicada stuff, and then after that, that's when things with disinformation and all this other stuff started coming up, where these guys were behind the Seth Rich conspiracy theory in a lot of
Okay, so
ways.
we're getting ahead of it because I'm already hearing the audience saying, okay, so wait, QAnon, how did this actually start? Because we're kind of talking around it. Like one day you just said, hey, this would be a cool concept. And you wrote down on a post it note, you stuck it on your fridge and you said QAnon. Or what exactly happened?
Actually, what really happened was is that a few months before, I believe July, I was looking at stuff online and I had noticed that there was this viral thing, and it wasn't really viral, but there was always somebody posting as Q, but not Q as in the sense of QAnon. They were posting like they were Q from Star Trek. right? Like they were this
Mm.
infinite being interacting with all of these people. And I just had always thought it was funny. And it had sparked something in my brain about FBI Anon, Mega Anon, and all these other different Anons that were popping up, because something to me since 2016 didn't seem organic. And what I was assembling to at the time was the fact that I should try to do one. So I actually had two different operations that we had run. There was one called QAnon and there was another one called PD Anon, right? And the ideas for both of these things were to see if we could actually replicate the same thing that was happening with these other ones and figure out who might be behind them, because normally that would piss them off in some kind of way, because we saw the same thing happen when Tangri 137 and Cicada 3301 were kind of beefing with each other because they wanted to be the only puzzle on the block or whatever. So when I was looking into Q, none of this stuff really even seemed to cross my mind until I was at DEF CON in 2017. And I was supposed to be there doing a cicada puzzle thing and enjoying myself. And I started talking to individuals that were associated with cicada, had proof, and then they started basically unloading some information on me about the people that were basically running this puzzle that I was solving. And it kind of like made me take a huge pause, where they had essentially told me that they stole this puzzle and the people behind it now are basically criminals and that I was in danger and they steal things. So I got the idea in my head that, hey, I think this is the only time that I'm ever going to be around enough people to actually make something like this happen. So I printed out a QR code with the cicada and a with the cicada on it and handed out to a bunch of people, told them to meet me at a whistleblower meeting at this day at this time, and whoever showed up got to hear the story. And I was like, guys, we have a problem with disinformation on the internet. Been this weird shit that's been happening where stuff pops up on 4chan and it goes to 8chan and then things get weird. I mean, I've seen it since the PP dossier happened, because if you were there, like I was there, you saw that originally the PP dossier that they were talking about with Trump, the parts of it were actually stuff that people were typing in on 4chan, working together to create a PDF document that
You're talking
eventually,
about the Steele dossier?
yes, the Steele dossier, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
A
just
lot of people
clarifying.
don't get it, but and some people won't believe it, but if you Google it, you'll find it. And the idea here is that these people on 4chan were talking together, basically kind of coming up with this story, and that story, like what they were talking about, almost verbatim ended up in the Steele dossier, and that was like the basis for all of this Trump shit. And I thought that that
So
was
it
pretty hysterical.
sorry to interrupt. So is this a prank, like it's okay to be white, or the white power, or the refusals to wear equipment on the time of the month to celebrate, and other, I don't know, mimi trolls or something that
Yeah,
come out of
it's a
that?
Mimi troll. It would be something like that. Yeah, they say, "Hey, we're gonna fuck with the Democrats. We're gonna come up with some fake shit, and we're gonna put it out there." And it ended up being in there. So I already had seen that the success there. I had known that the pipeline had existed. The only thing I didn't have access to was the actual people that were running the pipeline. So I used the cicada puzzle credibility and their name and everything. Basically, hold on, stole it because of what I had heard, and went to a group of people and say, this isn't really for cicada. I was like, what I really think would be awesome is that if we started something and it was definitely a psyop, right? And then we started posting about it, putting it on 4chan, but we got really concise with it. We don't do it for too long. And the idea here is that we're going to emulate FBI non, Mega non, Pizzagate, all of these popular things that have already existed that you and I, because I'm in a room full of people with security clearances and such, because it's a whistleblower meeting. There's no cameras, there's no phones, there's no recording of any kind. So these people are safe. They're government individuals, right? And I'm like, look, guys, we need to run a psyop that's going to really just change the face of the game, right? Like people are going to call this thing psyops. And the idea is so simple. You put it out there, you run it, and then you leave the keys out there and you let anybody take the wheel. And that's when the fun truly starts, because we've had a problem with disinformation for a long time. Like everybody's super into Pizzagate. People still to this day are talking about Pizzagate, and Pizzagate was never real, and that pisses people off, right? Because they're like, well, what about Epstein? Well, yeah, Epstein wasn't even a part of Pizzagate. You guys didn't even know who he was back in 2016, 2017. I did. I was writing stories about Jeffrey Epstein, and nobody cared to read them. And that's unfortunately why Jeffrey Epstein doesn't actually exist anywhere in the original QAnon mythos, is because it was stuff that was real that we didn't want to put in there. The whole idea was to see, would we be capable of just posting complete bullshit nonsense and still getting people on YouTube, Twitter, and all these other social media platforms spouting off about it? And if so, let us just run it for a little bit, leave the keys on the table, and then just track the people that are doing it and see what happens. So legitimately put out a piece of disinformation, start a fire, and then just see kind of where it goes, right?
Again,
Probably.
to what end though? And I
And
know I'm being annoying, but there is that
well,
element of
the end has always been to basically teach people how easy it is for disinformation to operate online and
hmm,
steal them to how to identify it. Because I'm a kind of guy where, yes, you can be told about it, but you're not going to really understand it until you've been through it, right? So there's a bunch of people right now that were Russiagators that aren't Russiagators anymore, and they're going
not
through the
Adam
same
Schiff
thing. Well, not Adam Schiff. Some people are
or
still
Rachel
stuck up.
Maddow.
Exactly, but some people are, right? It's just like the same thing with the Trumpers. At first, they hated him, and now there's people that are coming to him because they see that, oh, maybe I was like, stuck up in this psyop. And at the same time, it wasn't to really do anything negative to the people out there, but what is the issue with utilizing psychological operation tactics, actual government approved stuff on the public, because it's legal, number one, and number two, nobody's ever really tried it in the way that we did. So we went from having it be like a government agency versus ragtag group of dumbasses. That's the way that I look at it, even though, most of these people that were watching it, looking into things, were actually pretty smart, right? Like they're actually really well-to-do people, which is why I specifically chose this place to go. So I don't have, I don't know their names. I never tried to look at their faces or whatever. I don't want to make sure that none of those people that were actually tracking this whole thing to make it happen were there, because we've seen people grow out of nowhere. And to the end is that once we understand how the disinformation train actually operates, we can teach an artificial intelligence to identify it. And that's a lot with what has to do with the Create project that we were working on. And the Create project eventually morphed into the COVID-19 stuff, where they were actually utilizing this software to investigate the different claims and track the disinformation. So it's like QAnon was a vehicle to test a system that eventually got used for something else. So, like, originally, QAnon was like the beta test for this AI system to be able to track this disinformation stuff, worked really great. And then the government immediately shifted it over into working for basically the election stuff and then the COVID stuff. And it's just a little bit funny that nobody really seems to understand that that's what the whole point of it was, because you can't really teach somebody anything, AI or human being, without, a perfect example or a really, really good example with a lot of the different control questions and everything set so that the machine can at least understand what it's looking at to a basic degree before it actually extends itself into, well, what we're looking at now. And I mean, I never thought that this was going to go very far. Like, I thought that it would only last for a couple of months and then that would be it. I did not think that it would become a merchandising machine or any of that stuff. That was never my intention for it. I mean, I'm happy for the people that made money with it or whatever. I'm happy that they were able to create something for themselves out of this nonsense. But essentially, it's like eventually you have to admit defeat, right? You have to admit the truth. And most people just care not to do it. And it's fine. It's because you got to give me credence. And I mean, seriously, have you seen me? Do you know what I look like? Most people, they look at me and they don't want to give me respect or credit for anything. And I totally get it. It's part of like how this whole entire world works. So I think that QAnon for me was multiple things. Like for the big portion of it, you guys, for what I told you, is what's important. But the stuff that's not important is that the cicada people, right? Like guys like Thomas Schoenberger, these people, the ones that tried to claim that they were the ones that created created QAnon, were the same ones that claimed they created Cicada 3301, and then went back and recanted all of it. Like a lot of people don't understand that it was more of a fight between me and those guys, and then all of this extra governmental stuff kind of started happening because people saw how I originally solved the cicada puzzles. Some government types wanted some, I guess, information. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. They wanted to get more information from these people confidentially without having to, alert these individuals that they had been eyeballing them for at least a little bit of time. So I decided to stay in there for a little bit, much longer than I wanted to, because, well, there was a lot of information there that needed to be looked into. And I was the only person that had been able to get this close to all these individuals, some of them being very high power. And I believe that my battle with Cicada really blew up because of the QAnon thing, because those guys tried taking credit for it, not knowing that it was something that, I was behind, that me and my crew who had been doing. And they didn't even really know. They had an idea that I was working with some other people. They just didn't to know to what extent. So it's kind of like spy versus spy, I guess. Like these guys are trying to act like they're the FBI, the CIA, the NSA or something.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not any of those things, but I could tell you right now that a lot of people have missed a lot of really important information as to why this thing was important, at least to me. And the original story is important, how it started, because it started as a thing to get me out of Cicada. It also started as a thing for me to teach people how disinformation works. And I spent a lot of time going over it every single day on my YouTube channel. It got deleted, right? Defango got deleted because of it. And was it because they were trying to hide the information in all those videos where I was consistently showing people every single day why they shouldn't be watching that stuff and where it was coming from without outwardly saying, oh, yeah, by the way, this is my people? To me, it was more like a joke, like I was trying to
Um,
run a show.
how about folks like, let me see, I think Jack Posobiec somehow got into it,
I
or
got him into it.
or broke the story, or what? Was this back when he was working at Intel?
No, actually, he was there at DEF CON in 2017 at that whistleblower meeting. He's the only person that I recognize because I actually literally named him by name, and I was like, guys, so we get this disinformation thing out there, and then we wait a little while, and then we need to get like a reporter that we can trust, like Jack Posobiec, to like break the story. And this is in 2017, by the way. And he turns around and he goes, what the fuck? And I'm just like, oh, cool, whatever. So he had to turn back around because I wasn't supposed to see his face or anything like that. But ultimately, Mr. Posobiec was the guy that I pre-selected for it because I liked him, right? Like I liked him back in the day. And once Microchip finally decided that he wanted to come forward, because that's another thing that people didn't
Who's
get. Like
Microchip?
Microchip was the guy that was actually posting. He did the original posts and then some
Mhm.
of the posts under the trip code before it got shifted over to a different individual. So like Microchip was one of the main individuals that came forward in this conspiracy, and he's actually been deposed in court in Douglas Mackey's case as well. So like he's got like major history in being a super troll and almost like the number one person for doing this. See, not my
What
friend.
is
Okay.
Douglas Mackey's case? I
Eh,
remember, I'm going to start from zero, and
okay.
I want to get all of
Douglas
this.
Mackey is an individual in 2016 who posted some information saying, text this number to vote for Hillary Clinton by phone.
Just convicted recently.
And he
Okay.
just got convicted for that. So, don't do that. But Douglas Mackey was working with this Microchip individual back in 2016. And Microchip has been a confidential informant for the government since I believe 2018, once he got picked up by the feds. Because another thing here was to make sure that we got these motherfuckers caught up. See, they all think that they're super smart and they're never going to get caught, but see, I'm smarter than they are, and I literally will get them to catch themselves. And that's basically what happened with Microchip. Like, he kind of went too far. He got himself caught up, and then they brought him back on something else, which is the Mackey case. But eventually, he's going to actually probably have to do something with the whole QAnon thing, because I don't have to worry about it because I didn't do anything technically. I could still get caught up for like conspiracy or something like that. But if the government tried to come after me in that particular way, they know that I would just post everything and then say YOLO, and then they would have to deal with that. And then me rotting in a jail cell would do them no good. So ultimately, I think where we're at here is that Microchip was an individual that came to me in the very beginning, right? After that DEF CON meeting, I got met up with this dude named Justin McConney, who is the individual that taught Donald Trump how to tweet. Originally,
Mhm.
Google it. Justin was working on his campaign, working with another thing called MAGA 3X, which was an organization that encompasses Pasobik and
Was that
Cernovich
deplorable?
and Deplorable. Yes, sir. That's exactly what it was.
Okay, so I know a Robert Barnes, and I think he was at a deplorable back then.
Yeah,
Uh,
so maybe Barnes knows some of this probably stuff too. I don't know. All I know is that MAGA 3X had a pretty good vehicle organization. After everything, I told everybody the QAnon idea. The only people that came to me with any interest in moving forward was Justin McConney, MAGA 3X. And within about a couple of weeks later, this McConney character got me in touch with the dude named Microchip. No idea who he was. I heard he was some mega troll, whatever. Looked at his profile, seemed kind of like he was alt-right Nazi type fella. So, not exactly my favorite kind of person to be around or whatever, because I'm brown. But I figured I can use this full, and then, this is ultimately going to get him off of the internet for good, because he's not going to see that this is going to get him caught up. So, you know
another
what? It's a
name,
win-win.
another name that somebody threw at me earlier was Unirock.
Unirock. Oh my god. Yeah, that guy, total clown, dude. That guy's had 2 different YouTube channels demonetized for stealing other people's content blatantly and just re-uploading it, and basically just being a bad individual. He even got suspended from Twitch for his stuff, and he continuously does things. And during the QAnon era, he actually went through a whole ordeal where he is literally the first YouTuber person that I admitted to that QAnon was my operation. And he basically stopped being my friend and went on his own investigation, where he ended up doxing like 2 or 3 people that it were not behind QAnon or whatever.
Okay, so you guys were friends, or you worked
So,
together.
I mean, we didn't really work together. We were 2 streamers. So he invited me on his show to talk about Cicada 3301. And then after that, we used to play like video games online together. So we'd play some games. And then I think it was like around December, actually, like December 25th, me and him were playing PUBG, and he was talking about QAnon. And I was like, well, you know what, bro? I want to tell you something. And I told him that I was like, hey, it's my group. Here's the people that are involved. You know, I would stay away from that, bro. I wouldn't get into that, because, you're just going to end up, not being right. And I feel like it's going to cause issues with this, because you're going to say that it's not, I'm lying, so on and so forth. You're going to demand all this evidence. And I'm just going to be like, I ain't giving you shit, dog. Are you the U.S. government? Because that's the only people. New York Times, the U.S. government. If you're not either of those people or Time, I don't care.
Nor Vice
So,
Media. Didn't you do something with them?
yeah, I actually did do something with Vice Media, and that was an interesting thing as well, because I figured at that point, like, they were going to butcher it, but I figured I would just be like on Vice at that point, because they were willing to come talk to me. And I mean, we had a decent conversation, but to be perfectly honest, they lied to me about like the premise of everything, and it's kind of sad. Like, it was supposed to be something else, and the January 6th thing happened, and it basically just got focused into that. So like my portion of the interview seems like it was actually before that shit
Hmm.
happened. And the entire time, like we had our interview, I was talking about Antifa and how the radicalization of Antifa started at bookstores and how they were utilizing these bookstores and confirmation bias in the same type of way, where instead of it being like a post online, they were like, hey man, come over here, check out this book right here, this page, read that right there, buy this book. So like they were doing it, they do it old school, right? They're doing it the analog way, is where you get people to go places and you utilize books and other types of iconography and media, like reality memes to get them, and on the internet you use like digital memes to get them. So once you start to realize that a piece of paper and that says something on it and a computer screen that says something on it can have the same effect on a person psychologically, in the sense of like a mind control or MK Ultra in a sense. And the reason that the government doesn't utilize these things is not because they did not work or because they were abusive, because they didn't care about that. It's because they found a better way, and it lies in this confirmation bias thing that everybody seems to forget about all the time. And the idea here is that as long as you're following the system and you're only taking baby steps forward, you can essentially get anybody to pretty much do anything if you take enough time
Mhm.
by nudging them the correct way. And that's essentially how the Antifa organization talked about, because that's what we were supposed to be talking about. We were supposed to be talking about Operation Mindfuck, Discordianism, and really like the meat and potatoes. I think the best piece of media so far talking about like origins and ideas of QAnon is the Financial Times thing that came out, because Isabella actually brings up Discordianism and actually brings up the books that I read and the Q book, and how the Q book, the actual book Q by Luther Blissett, the group, is almost it's the analog to my story, because I am like apparently a secret government agent that's feeding secret information about the rebellion to the government and giving them fake information, all the while posting as an individual or acting as an individual knowing as Q. And literally like this entire time, like I'm actually, I guess, the bad guy, right? Because it's all not true, and the whole purpose was to eventually basically quell the rebellion before it ever happened. And that's essentially what QAnon has done. It pacified a large portion of the base, a specific base, to the point where they were more into sitting in on their computers and reading posts than they were to go outside to do anything. And if you really think about it, there was never any clashes between the Antifa types and the QAnon types in any big way or any meaningful way, was there? No, there was not. And why was there not? Is because they were being mentally separated. They were literally being chain linked with imaginary fences, and they didn't even see it. And for the most part here, it was successful, because I think that we
Why couldn't you
ultimately,
keep Antifa at home then?
well, they don't follow our media. So like Antifa doesn't sit on 4chan and 8chan and go on Facebook and read all this stuff. It only can work for a small subset of the population. Confirmation bias can't work for everyone. You can't, I mean, if you could find something that you could confirmation bias everyone with, that'd be a powerful tool, I think, right? Like, it used to be God, right? People used to
Mhm.
use, the universe, the Holy Spirit, the Lord. That used to be the greatest source of confirmation bias on the planet that you could get to use to get people to do anything. But nowadays there's a lot of people that don't believe in that stuff anymore. Man, there's people out there that are so immoral or just, I guess, dark. They're like, man, nothing. There's nothing that controls this. This is just a infinite blip in a time, and it's just meaningless. So like,
How
what do
about
you
Peter
do?
Thiel? Peter Thiel,
Hmm.
how did he come into all of this, or with you, or any of it?
I don't think he ever did came into it. The closest that Peter Thiel would have ever have come into this would have been through the MAGA 3X situation, because I know
Mm.
that he was funding that at like some point in time. But like, did Peter Thiel ever like
I don't
come
know.
around? No. Do I ever met Peter Thiel? No. Maybe he was funding Microchip and them guys, maybe Justin, but like for me, I'm like solo, dude. So like I don't think so. And I've had other people come forward with me. There was one
Well,
guy
was there some sort of strategic manual or something from Peter Thiel that was
that
involved
was
with
the
it?
MAGA 3X manual. So this dude from the anime alt-right had posted an alleged document that was leaked from the MAGA 3X group. It was at Bitburner on Twitter. That was actually the person that was like getting it popular so everybody could see it. And it does talk about the MAGA 3X movement, which was in it. All that stuff in that document was real, right? That's actually what they do. There's a meeting that happens literally down the street from my house. That's a Republican meeting where people come every week. That follows the exact kind of like data that they were going through. So there could be a strong possibility that, yeah, there was some big dark money funding a portion of this, but do I personally have any information on it? No. Has Peter Thiel ever sent me a check? Nah, man, waiting for that shit though. I could definitely use it, but I'm
So,
still pretty sure he's pretty pissed off at me.
okay, so is that something like Saul Alinsky? And by that I mean, out there in the open strategy type of stuff, not necessarily dark or
Correct.
mysterious, but just community organizing type of material.
Yeah, it's basically community organizing type of material that people were trying to make look nefarious, and it was no different than what the Democrats did back in 2008. Newsflash: I worked on the Obama campaign in 2008 and 2012. I wasn't even registered a Democrat. I don't even know how that happened or whatever. I just was like, hey, I'm gonna go try to do politics, and I signed up for the McCain campaign, the Obama campaign, and only the Obama campaign called me back. So I was like, cool, I got it in. Let's see how this shit works. And that's how I got myself into politics, social media, all these other things is because of that. And ultimately, like I saw how the Democrats were organizing, and I realized that there was some weird things with it. The way that they did things, the way they talked about things, looking into these other tactics that they were talking about, like Saul Alinsky, it kind of gave me a better thought process because in 2008 I was green, right? But then in 2012 I was on the other side of things. So it's like I was a volunteer and then I wasn't a volunteer and I was on the other side of things. And seeing how the mask comes off and how things really are was, kind of eye opening for me essentially. And then Donald Trump decided to run for president. And when I was a child, I told myself, if that guy ever runs for president, I'm going to vote for him. So I did because,
How
if I can't keep a promise to myself, who can I keep a promise to?
Fair enough. How does this lead into Seth Rich now? I do want to get into that story.
Well, the lead in to Seth Rich is actually Seth Rich happened before. It happened before. So everybody knows that like this conspiracy started on a really weird website related to something called Scorch a Fall, which is a very well-known disinformation poster. And this person linked to a supposed Russian SVR report saying that Seth Rich was not murdered or he was murdered and so on and so forth. But literally, it was just a link to the Russian like intelligence website. There was never any report that existed. Nobody's ever been able to cough it up in any meaningful way. It did not get scrubbed for the internet because it simply never existed in the first place. It was
He
just
was
made up.
murdered, though, if I recall, right? I mean,
Well, that's what they say. They said Seth Rich, but they said that he was robbed. And
right.
then they said he was robbed in the street and it was just a mugging. But according to this website, they were saying that it was like much deeper and that it was like an FBI plot. And then
Okay, I
he
just
was
wanted to
taken
clarify.
out.
He was, in fact, murdered. It would be at least a mugging, but it could be something else.
Well, yeah. Well, some people believe that he was taking out because he leaked the emails from the DNC and specifically Hillary Clinton. That's what the big conspiracy theory was. And to be frank, there's literally never been a single individual, not Kim.com or anybody else that's ever claimed to have any access to anything that's ever been able to show that any of this stuff ever existed, right? All we really know is that he was murdered and they did not take anything from him, but we do not know why. Julian Assange made a video or did an interview where he kind of made it seem like it could have been Seth, but he doesn't say anything about that. He never specifically says it outright. Really, where that conspiracy theory seems to come from is Cy Hirsch, the originator of it, because Cy Hirsch is the first person that ever mentions anything about it. And it was in a private conversation with another gentleman named Edward Batowski. Ed Batowski was recording a phone call with Cy Hirsch when Cy Hirsch was kind of drunk and was like, yeah, Seth Rich, he got murdered. They stole a gun out of an FBI cruiser down the street and they used it to murder him, and they hired an
Well,
MS-13 gang member and all this other
this is
crazy stuff.
Seymour Hirsch you're talking
Seymour Hirsch, yes,
who
the
is
Pulitzer
kind of,
Prize.
yeah, he's not some crazy hack out of somewhere. He's
Well,
kind
I
of a
think he's a
name.
crazy hack, actually. I mean, I think he used to be a name. Nowadays, he's just a drunk asshole that just makes shit up. But back in the day, he used to do some great work. And I give people back in the day respect, but you got to keep that shit up. You can't be just like making stuff up. And it's part of the reason that it really pisses me off is because I've been subpoenaed in the Seth Rich cases. I have never been a part of any of the lawsuits, like been sued myself or anything. Anybody that's ever tried to sue me for anything is lost, and I've done it pro bono because I know what I'm doing, and I also have an AI that can help me out. But ultimately, they thought all of these crazy things, but where the conspiracy truly originates is a conversation between Cy Hirsch and Edward Patowski, where Cy Hirsch was said that all this stuff happened. And the only other person that corroborated any evidence to Edward Patowski that was at the center of all this drama was Ellen Ratner, who went publicly basically saying that she talked to Julian Assange and he told her that Seth Rich was the leaker. And she's never talked about it ever again. Refuses to talk about it, but there's a video online of her saying it. So
So is it possible he was the leaker or not?
it is possible. There's just no definitive evidence that shows that he was. And with Julian Assange and being basically inaccessible for very, very many years, it's
Mm.
not like we're ever really going to get like any concrete information on it. And trust me, I've talked to all of the lawyers involved with this stuff. When I did my deposition, I live streamed it, and
Mhm.
they're like in the chat and they were like, can you bring that back up again? Can you get us like a really good screenshot of that email? And I literally went through my emails live, no uncensored, just like going through all this stuff. And you know what? It's because I get their jobs, but I wanted to show them that, you know what, it doesn't matter what they're trying to do in their case. It's never going to work because this video's out there and people will always be able to go see the full truth, which is something that I think that, the legal profession really hasn't moved up into. One of these days, I think it might, they might use some of my tactics and really save themselves a lot of money. I mean, people could save themselves a lot of money if they just, like read a book at some point or that
Well,
one book.
I just want to clarify because you do sound very skeptical that Seth Rich had any information or even leaked any information.
Yeah, I'm
Am I?
very skeptical that he did because I've never seen anything that shows that he did. Every piece of information since it came out from the very beginning has always been the guy died and then everybody applied to him that he was the leaker, but from his own friends, from his periphery, there's nothing to suggest that he inserted a hard drive into a server, copied the data to a hard drive, and then went and dropped it off to somebody else. I mean,
Was there data leaked?
there was data that was clearly leaked, yes.
Do you have any opinions on then where? I mean, if the most common source you are skeptical about, I'm sure that the easiest way to prove it's not him is to prove who it probably is or have a suspect. Do you have
Well,
suspects in mind?
yeah, actually, I do have a suspect in mind, and it was, what the hell was his name? And he was a black guy. His name was William something. All of the documents and everything that got leaked, there was an individual's name associated to them because a lot of them were emails, and all of the emails seemed to be to and from a specific individual. So I think that ultimately it was actually just this individual's email listing that he had taken out, had was taking it out for his own purposes, and then somebody actually hacked him and leaked it, is what I think, because all of the Word documents associated with it, emails, everything goes back to this one other thing. And man, now I'm like, what the heck was his name? WW. I don't remember. Now I'm gonna have to.
I
It'll
have to look
probably
it up
pop
and
up.
we'll try to put in the
Yeah.
description.
Well, like that's something that's very important though. Like it's always been
Mhm.
my case, and then I've talked to Elizabeth Lee Voss, and then there's another guy that was running G-2 dot space. It's a website, and that's where all of the Guccifer information where has been gone through. And I mean, even at this point, they basically show like it was probably not Seth Rich, and I mean, Seth Rich would have had access to this guy's emails and he would have been leaking this guy's documents, and then they changed some stuff. And you got to remember that there was a couple of weird things happening because everybody forgets about Guccifer 1.0, and then there was the supposed Seth Rich email dump, and then after that there was a Guccifer 2.0. So I don't know, like,
Now, a question I've got to ask, and I meant to ask it way before in the interview, and hopefully people stick around. I've been around the military. I've had a clearance. I have a little stuff here and there. How are you able to talk about government involvement or an operation freely with me right now?
well, I'm not a government operative, number one.
Mhm.
That's where we have to go back to the IARPA thing, is that I've never worked for the government. I can't work for the government. I smoke weed. I've done drugs and stuff that would like bar me from ever
Mhm.
being associated to being working with them. But they still want people like me that have skills that they can't do. You know, when I'm running circles around their best intelligence analysts, and I'm just some fat dude on YouTube with the YouTube channel, and I'm finding terrorist groups and cells faster than they can, and I'm doing it just by like on front of my computer, and I'm doing it live. It really shows them that there's major issues with their infrastructure. So the only way that they can entice people like me to do anything with them is to give us the opportunity. They're like, hey, well, you know, you can sign up for to be a volunteer for one of our research projects, and then you could apply your skills to try to help make our
But
shit
but
better.
no confidentiality agreements,
No,
no secret.
nothing.
I mean, it seems pretty liberal and open from them to say, "Hey, no problem. Yeah, yeah, you just talk away."
Well, it's the public face of the system, right? They're public. There's nothing that they're trying to hide. You can go to the IARPA website and you can see all of the projects that they're working on. They basically tell you all the cool stuff that's about coming out. I think this year they were saying, yeah, we're trying to basically make it so that your AI wingman, because now we have jets, right? Where it's an F-35, and then they have one, two, three, four other jets flying with them, but they're not jets, they're drones, and they're flying with the main guy. And now they can tell those drones to shoot their missiles. They can shoot their missiles, and then when the drones are out of their missiles, they can fly the drone into the other plane and it's its own missile. So that's the kind of stuff that they're working on right now. Even so, more so, you can get into the molecular technology with MIST. And with molecular technology, they're basically encoding information into DNA to the point where they've been able to fit like a petabyte or whatever on like a piece of something that's like this big,
Mhm.
and they can read it optically. So like there's some really cool stuff that they have to do in the public, but the only way that they can get, I guess, like talented people sometimes, because to be honest, it's great to get somebody all clean cut straight edge and they can make it through the schools and things, but
Mhm.
what they really need is that creative intelligence. And sometimes those people are just like robots, right? They can't figure that stuff out. They don't see stuff like I can see. So, you know, when I'm beta testing some software for the government or whatever, there's no non-disclosure agreement that says that I can't share it. But the other thing is that even if there was, I don't give a fuck, and I'll
Okay.
share it anyway. So it's
Speaking
like,
of that not giving a, as you put it, um, you've been described a troll. From what I understand, you're okay with the definition. I want to clarify: are you or not? Or
no, I'm not okay with the definition. I mean, I
okay,
hate it. Honestly, I've never been a troll. I've always been trying to do good stuff. People just call me a troll because they're like making fun of my looks or whatever. I mean, I haven't trolled anyone really. I mean, people troll me all the time, and so I troll them back, and then I get called a troll, and that's just like weird. I'm just like, guys, I'm just a regular guy in front of my computer. I might be the definition of an internet troll in some other people's eyes, but to me, that's just never going to apply to me. I mean, the Daily Beast called me a notorious internet provocateur. And
Well,
I'm
that's a
like,
cool
bro,
term. Provocateur is pretty cool, though.
that's cool, but like, when have I ever made any money off of this? Like, whenever have I provoked anything? Like, I've just been like, oh yeah, I was involved with that. Here's the evidence. Bye. Or hey, here's my take. Bye. You know, I'm like Ian Miles Chong, only I live in America and I'm not a douchebag.
There's a couple. There's a couple videos that are floating around though that seem to show that you might have been threatening to dox somebody in order to get money. I don't know.
Oh, you mean the
Which one
monograph video? That's a
is that? His,
monograph video. Yeah,
I
that's what
don't
a
know.
monographs video is. Actually, that video comes from Agent 19, and the full context to the thing is that monograph bet me that I couldn't figure out what his real name was, and I did. And I put it out there, and then he was like, "You're doxing me," and I'm like, "I'm not fucking doxing you. What are you talking about? You bet me $1,000 that I couldn't do it. I need $1,000. Here's your name. You asked me to do it."
Oh,
And
perfect.
then
So
he
can I play it then, and we can describe it? Then that way we can address it out there because I wanted to ask you ahead and not just put something out
No, you
there.
can put it up there. The more context to it is like, at this point, I'm living at my dad's house, sleeping on the couch, and Monograph had been trolling my YouTube channel like he was trolling Nick Rekida's YouTube
I was going to
channel.
say, is this monograph who
For
is currently
this
suing
is
Nick Rekieta?
Yes, this is the same exact one. See, I was getting all of that Monty shit way before he ever existed, okay?
Mhm.
And it was almost a year after me and Monty dropped the beef with me because he was just mad that I had gotten his real name, right? Like he got pissed. So him and
Mm.
Agent 19 were taking cut ups of my videos where, I get animated in my videos. I play characters all of the time. And if people don't get that, like, I am an expert at improv. I've
Mm.
performed at Coachella multiple different times with the Jive Joint. Like, I have lots of skills. I'm a culinary artist, chef guy. I went to culinary school. I worked in that field as well. I could do computers. To me, it's just a thing, right? It's a thing that people don't get, that half the time I'm just improving and just doing crazy shit, just trying to see what works. And at this point, like, I thought Monty was pretty scary, so I was trying to play into it, but at the same time, I was like, bro, you better give me that $1,000 at the same time. I want that shit. And then, of course, that him and Agent 19 went and clipped the video, and then they re-uploaded it to YouTube like 30 or 40 times. And you got to believe I see people posting this shit hundreds of times. People all the time, oh, well, look what I found. Oh, you're a bad guy. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. So Monograph was stalking the out of me worse than he was ever stalking Nick Rekieta, and I'm the bad guy. Play the video.
Dude, you're done. And I expect that $1,000 in my bank account and my PayPal by the end of today. And if that $1,000 is not in my PayPal at the end of the day, more information will be released. This time it's going to be the stuff that shows you doing nasty things to melons and things. And
Okay, and there's a second video here, and I don't even know how to describe it. I'll just play it, and then I'm sure you've probably seen it.
But those are the ones that at least own it. Thomas doesn't get to own the trademark. Although he's trying to lie to everybody and say that he's going to get it. Just going to look at you, Blackbird, and say, if you give him that trademark, I'm going to stop at nothing in the entire world to ruin your life, your family's life, your husband's life, and anyone that's ever been known to you ever, Beth. Like I said, if you ever think about it, even attempt it, to give that thing to him, it's all over.
So right after that video, this particular video, I'm driving in my car. It's in 2018. After the Cicada group, Beth Blackburn, Thomas Schoenberger, Arturo Tafoyeski, they had basically been stalking me for a while since I had exposed the Cicada organization. And in the video, I was talking directly to Beth because right before that, I was like, dude, you're going to give this trademark to Thomas. You're going to give You're going to basically let him win. So I went through that whole entire thing. And then right after that, that video specifically was actually created by Arturo Tafoyevsky. He took it clip from a much longer video where I was talking, and I was like, look, Beth, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. The reality here is that I want to make sure that you understand that, like, if you don't give it to him, he's going to try to ruin your life forever, which he actually did. She had to sue him. She tried to sue me too, ended up having to settle out of court because, you know, she was lying in paper. She said that I took like $500 from her. And then all I had to do was basically prove that, you know, that was payment for something, for services. And then I had actually sent her the $500. So she like misremembered it. She said she sent me $500. I actually sent her $500. So she owed me $500 and she never paid me, but she tried to tell the court that I stole $500 from her, which wasn't true. And then she tried to use that video too. So like I just provided the longer version of the video and the full context and then made sure that I had it transcribed. And basically her lawyer, he was an interesting fellow. I went and did the same thing that I did with the Seth Rich lawyers. I went through my videos, pulled up all of the emails and stuff, Twitter messages and everything from the time frame that shows that, number one, she was admitted before that I had never tried to take any money from her. I had never tried to do anything negative to her. And even in that video, she told me that she fully understood that, you know, like I wasn't trying to say anything or come after her. I was trying to, you know, explain to her my feelings at the point in time, because if you give it to him, he's going to come after you for, or he's not, I'm going to come after you for life. If you don't give it to him, he's going to come after you for life. But in reality, I don't do that. That's not the kind of person that I am. So she tried, she failed. She ultimately succeeded in her lawsuit against Schoenberger, which is one that I was a party to, but got dismissed from. And he never actually showed up to court. So it was like, just kind of like
a default judgment.
It was a default judgment for him. But for me, you know, like I sent her lawyer all the information. I willingly did a deposition to, you know, gave her the truth because I had always been on her side. Right. And at every single point in time, she was basically fucking me over. She was the person that was funding Schoenberger. She was the person that was buying the trademark. She was the person funding Cicada. And after the QAnon stuff, and when I left Cicada in the early 2018, she was still with them, still funding their stuff. And it was getting increasingly bad for her because Thomas Schoenberger was threatening her, taking money from her. I think he took something like $50K at least, probably more than they've admitted to. And then there was another individual, Trevor Fitzgibbon, she was also funding at the same time, that literally was making it. And then to top it all off, the settlement that we had, she broke it because she posted the entire thing on Twitter.
Okay. Well, to wrap everything up, what was the question that I should have asked you, but I neglected to?
The question that you should have asked me was that, not why did QAnon happen, not why is all this stuff important. The question that you should have asked is, how come you don't do more about it? That's the question that I think. How come I haven't done more about it?
Good.
And
how come?
The reason I haven't done more about it is because I stopped caring. Like, I went through this thing. It was only supposed to happen for me a little bit. And then my life got crazy because of the Cicada stuff. And then there was the Seth Rich lawsuit. And then there was this Beth Blackburn lawsuit that I got filed on my birthday. And honestly, I had to go through all of this stuff, get videos played in my face where folks were talking to Arturo Tafoyevsky, a guy that's literally been stalking me for years, who lives in Mexico, never been to America, all this shit. And his entire thing is that he says that I'm the worst person imaginable. He's always trying to say, oh, he's horrible to women, he's a bad guy. And it's just the same life ruination tactics that he learned from Thomas Schoenberger and Cicada that I've been going through. And honestly, like, the reason that I don't push this anymore is because I had to move from Arizona because people were stalking me, not only because of the Cicada stuff, but the QAnon stuff, because everybody knows Arizona is like a bastion, right? Like, I know Jacob Chansley. I have pictures with Jacob Chansley before he was the QAnon shaman, when he was wearing his Burning Man getup and it's all freaking like glow in the dark and he's got lasers and shit on it. Like, I understand who a lot of these people were way before all this stuff came forward. So for me, it's just like, I don't get into it anymore because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it just pisses a lot of people off because of the confirmation bias. I didn't believe that this thing would be as powerful as it was. And people are still wrapped up to it today. I mean, even to the point that there's no longer conspiracy theories. You start talking about flat earth, it's QAnon. You start talking about lizards, or lizard people, it's QAnon. And it's crazy how the zeitgeist has been broken in such a way, which to me just makes me think that I would like to just keep doing my videos and keep moving forward, but I don't have any fears or cares. I just realized that humanity is not where I wanted it to be. It was a test, right? And we failed the test, and that sucks. But what can you do?
Perfect last words. Thank you very much.